a huge day in Patriots world, one that I'm really excited about. I wore the Patriots hat. I try and keep my fandom out of it, but I couldn't resist. The Patriots, the biggest news of the day,
involving a guy named Bill.
Involving a guy named Bill. Bill Murray, offensive line, reserve offensive line contract today.
Oh, hang on, Mike. You're going through a tunnel there. Say that again.
I had to X out of something. Patriots reserve guard, Bill Murray, signed to a futures deal. So that's what we're here to talk about today, of course. No, I'm kidding. But the Patriots, that's the news the Patriots sent us today. But actually, you know what, Alex, do you have any thoughts on Bill Murray before we do the big stuff?
They like him. They like him. Guys on the team like him. I think Bill likes him. I was kind of surprised that he didn't get a futures contract initially, but now what the new OC Bill something, Bill O'Budford, right? Or something. Yeah, he'll have another offensive lineman to work with. That's the big news today.
Let's do it. Huge news. I'm pumped. It feels like stuff's really going in the right direction. Full day of offensive talk today. Just before 8 a.m., ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Patriots will be naming Bill O'Brien as the team's offensive coordinator once again. Guy who built his resume here from 07 through 11, went to Penn State, was the head coach, took that team out of a real funk after everything that went on down at not College Station. What's the name of where Penn State is now? It's not College Station. It's State College, right?
State College, yeah.
State College. So he does that. He goes to Houston. He was a successful coach at Houston. Ends up getting fired there. Learns from Alabama for a few years, and he is back. I love it, Alex. I've been on cloud nine all day about it. I think it's huge for Mac Jones. I think going into year 3, just before his 5th-year option on his rookie contract has to be picked up. I think something like this could have happened a year ago, and that's what we're always going to say probably throughout Mac's whole career is what if they did something the year before instead. But I think that it's never too late to be right, and it's huge. I think it's going to be huge for Mac. I think it's going to be huge for the offense. There's going to be a huge difference going into 2023 with Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a massive step in the right direction, right? Having somebody that has called offensive plays, has been an NFL head coach who knows what he's doing in that role. There was nobody available better suited for this job than Bill O'Brien. They got the right guy after a offseason of head scratching out of the box moves from Matt Patricia to, not really doing anything in free agency to drafting Cole Strange. They went with the obvious one. This was obvious. Like on the surface, this is a vanilla move. And that's not to knock it. Sometimes you need to make the vanilla move. It's something they didn't do at all last year. And now they've done it, and it's excellent. So I think a lot of fans will view this as the end of a process. And in a lot of ways it is. Mm-hmm. But it's also the beginning of a process as well, because Bill O'Brien himself walking through the door, nobody as an offense coordinator walking through that door snaps their fingers and fixes it, right? Now it's about the rest of the staff. What kind of schematic changes are they going to make offensively? Are they going to make personnel changes offensively? But we can find it was hard to get into some of that stuff without knowing who the offensive coordinator was going to be. And we all we knew, right? We
knew. We sort of knew this was coming, right?
But now we can really dig into that, and because if it had been a guy like Keenan McCardell, it would have looked a little different. Mm-hmm. Now we know who it is, and we can really kind of start projecting forward, and this offseason can really start rolling. They couldn't do anything before they made this move, not with the rest of the coaching staff, no personnel moves on the roster, no trades, no none of it. This had to be the first domino to fall, and now we're off and running.
And there are so many, like you said, there's so many more dominoes involved now that it's good to get the first one done, right? Because you talk about where they're going to go with the rest of the staff. You look at maybe a guy like Doug Marrone comes in to coach the O-line. We can go into Adrian Clem, who they might bring in. You look at weapons, and you talk DeAndre Hopkins. Is there a beef between him and O'Brien and all that stuff? But the first one's done, right? And it's someone who Mac Jones has some familiarity with. It's gone on forever that he and O'Brien met in between their tenures at Alabama. Mac helped him ease into the offense. So, I mean, it's two guys who just love football. And my favorite thing about O'Brien here is that he's the teapot. You've heard the teapot saying with, him and Brady and Brian Hoyer, and how, O'Brien would blow up on guys if he had to. And he he's there and he knows his stuff, and he's going to be hard on you, and he's going to coach you hard. And that's exactly what Mac Jones said he wanted earlier this season. I don't know if that was an indictment directly on Bill O'Brien in a good way, to say, like, I want Bill O'Brien here eventually, or I just want someone who's going to know what's going on and, hammer it into our heads. But they have that here now, and it's very exciting for Mac Jones. I think it's what they needed last year, and I know they probably couldn't do it with the contract or anything, and that's where I kind of go. It's kind of senseless at this point to go backwards, but I want to do it for a second, because why did they even do Patricia in the first place? You could have went with Nick Caley for a year, and at least a guy with some sort of offensive background, one season to test it out as you waited out Bill O'Brien. Because it feels like that's what they were doing anyway, was just waiting out O'Brien's contract.
Well, because Mike Caley might have been good, and then suddenly there's no space for O'Brien in 2023. Like, no,
that makes no sense. And let me cut you off, because if Caley does great, I know you were being sarcastic, but if Caley does great, you keep Caley. If Caley doesn't do well,
or he gets a head coaching job, right?
So exactly, he leaves. If he does good, you keep him, and if he does bad, he goes back to tight ends, or he leaves, or something, whatever the case may be. But there was no excuse, and we know there was no excuse for what they did with Mac Jones's growth and what they did with Matt Patricia. But again, I really do. I think it's huge for Mac. I think it's two guys that know ball, love ball, and frankly, I think they're going to mesh really well together.
Yeah, and there was the report from Mark Daniels earlier today that Mac's really excited about this, and I think that that's big. It's a guy that has a quarterback's background too. This is a guy that should, in theory, be able to maximize Mac Jones. We're going to see. There's a lot of talk at the end of last season. How coachable is Mac Jones really, with some of the outbursts on the sideline and all that? We're going to find out exactly what Mac Jones is made of. And this goes back to my bigger point that I said a couple of shows ago that is my big take of the offseason. One of two things is going to happen. Either Bill O'Brien's going to fix Mac, or he's not, and the next guy comes in 2024 with an established offense coordinator. So I like that it's a guy with a quarterback background. That's another big part of it.
So, and the other thing that, building off of guy that knows ball, I was watching a thing on Bill O'Brien earlier, and it was like a YouTube coach tape type thing that he had done.
Yeah.
And he was explaining their Haas wide juke play, that it's the Patriots like bread and butter, one of the plays where outside guys run hitches that convert to goes on press coverage. Inside guys run seams. Third guy runs an option route across the middle. It's a basic play, but Patriots run it, and they've ran it well. And
that's the play that they hit Gronk on at the end of Super Bowl 53.
Correct. It's their bread and butter. They've used it before, specifically, like you said, in that Super Bowl. They ran it 3-4 times in a row, got them into the end zone for a touchdown at the end of the Super Bowl, and they won it. So again, it's O'Brien breaking down that play, and I'm watching it, and he's explaining how the coverage dictates where you're going to go with the football and what side you're going to look to. And if you have this matchup against the guy you trust versus going inside, and why the inside receiver is going to, break to the outside versus read the inside on the back. And I'm watching, all this stuff that it's sort of basic football, but you have to, hear it to understand it. And it's something I understand just from playing the game myself and, being a fan. But I'm truly watching that, and I'm thinking to myself, does Matt Patricia even know this stuff? Like, truly, do you think Matt Patricia could go and break down a play like that? Because, look, I know we're not in those meeting rooms, but it was just so dysfunctional the whole year, and it was so disoriented. And I'm like, thank God they have this guy here instead of what happened this past season, because I truly don't think, part of me feels bad for Matt Patricia, because he was not ready for this, and he was sort of just kind of chucked into it. And you see it on Twitter all the time. People give him so much crap, and you pile on him, and it was bad, and it's his fault, but you kind of feel for him at the same time.
It's not that he doesn't understand it. It's that there's certain things you do long enough, and everybody has something in their life that's like this. You do long enough, you pick up the little nuances of it that somebody just starting out, even if they're familiar with something adjacent, may not understand. I don't doubt that Matt Patricia knows what Haas wide juke is and understands the general concept, but there may be little nuances of the way it interacts with certain defenses and the timing of when you call it and things like that, that he just, having not been around it, he's not in the meetings. He's not necessarily breaking it down to that level. And that's not his fault. It goes back to what you said. He wasn't prepared for that role. He should have never been in that role in the first place. that he's not going to get. I hate to compare you to Matt Patricia, Mike, but like, you've been doing this show for 6 months, and there's little things about it now that you probably understand much better than. Has it really been 6 months, actually, now that I think about it?
Maybe a little less, maybe 5, but yeah.
All right, but still, the point stands.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably little things that you understand now, and I bet the audience can even see that there are little things, but you kind of understand better now than you did when you started, and it helps you with the show. Like, that's just, there's a reason, and I understand Bill's belief that a truly good football coach can coach any position, because at the end of the day, it's teaching. I do believe there is a level of truth to that. This was just way too much of a stress test for that theory, because once you're calling plays, now you're beyond teaching. Now you're into the strategy of it, and you have to make quick decisions and all of that. And there's a reason that guys generally stay on one side of the ball throughout their career. You have guys like Matt Patricia, whose first year was on offense and then moved to defense. You have guys like Josh McDaniels, whose first year was on defense and then moved to offense after that. Like, that makes sense. But 15, 20 years in, there's a reason guys sort of stay where they stay. And that, to me, is what happened. And now you have a guy coming in, Bill O'Brien. And actually, I believe I have his resume right here. Yep. Bill O'Brien's first coaching job was the linebackers coach.
Look at that.
But then he goes tight end, GA, running back, OCQB, running back, OCQB, offensive assistant, wide receiver, QB, OCQB. And then that was his last stop in New England. He goes Penn State, right? Where he's the head coach. Right. There's a reason that it's linear. And they just sort of, again, I don't hate the theory from Bill overall. I really don't. But not at that level.
Right.
This is more like,
bring him on the offensive line first. And if you want to teach it,
right,
honestly, year by year and go like that. But to put him in the position he did this year just did not make sense.
Right. Or it's even more something where, like, a guy like Dante Scarnecchia, could he have tips that would help a defensive lineman? Yeah, of course.
Right.
Of course. I'm not, and I think the world of Scar, I'm not going to put him out there and have him call defensive plays out of nowhere, right? So,
right.
Like, again, if he did it over the course of years and years and years and built up, he probably could. He's a brilliant football mind. But you just, that sort of change isn't supposed to happen. And now the Patriots are back where they have a guy in that seat who knows what he's doing in that seat.